share this information with you. And so, again, if you've been listening to us for years, welcome back. We're super glad that you stuck with us this whole time. I think we have a lot of fun on this show, and I think that's why hopefully you guys keep coming back and listening. And so there's a couple ways you can actually participate with us in the show, which we always really enjoy. Number one, you can actually go to on Facebook. You can go to Doctors Warren, DRSWARREN. On Doctors Warren on Facebook, and you can like and follow that page, and you can actually watch us live, and you can follow along. You can ask your questions live on Facebook. We like to answer those even in the commercial breaks on the radio show, so that we can dive into more. And also, too, you can give a call into the radio station if you have a specific question. You're local to Chattanooga, you're driving in your car. That number would be 423-267-1023. Again, that's 267-1023, and you can ask your health question there. So for those of you who this is your first time listening to us, a little bit about us. We are located in the Chattanooga area, in the Hamilton Place area, over near the mall. We are across from the YMCA, next to the Home Depot. There we work with families of all ages, all sizes, tons and tons of kids, tons of, athletes and individuals and everybody in between. And it's a lot of fun. And we get to do things like structural corrective chiropractic that's specifically about correcting the curvatures of the spine. Again, doing things like scoliosis work and actually optimizing the structure of the spine in order to improve function of the nervous system. Structure equals function. It's really the basis of all, biology. Well, I guess it would be even the basis of engineering, right? All the way down to it. Structure equals function. So it's no different for the spine and the nervous system. We also work with functional wellness in our office. So that means Dr. Rebecca and I both, we're looking at all kinds of functional tests, whether it's, GI map stool tests and Dutch tests, hormone tests. We're looking at, panels of wellness blood work, and we're really diving deep into the root cause of our patient and client's health history and health crisis. And so we get to evaluate that, and then we get to take a natural approach to actually helping you get yourself well, right? So I like to word it that way because we don't treat anything in our office, and I'm actually very, very proud of that. Like, that's something that I don't think I would ever want to say that I treat anything, mainly because I would be a liar if I said that, right? Because it's always the body that heals. I don't care if it's a medication given on your deathbed. The reason you live is because your body's able to take in that medicine and utilize it to keep itself alive. It has nothing to do with the magic in medication. It has nothing to do with the magic in an apple that you're eating or the kale smoothie that you had this morning. Literally, the amazing part of it is the body, right? And its innate intelligence. And so knowing that if you get down to the root cause and figure out, hey, what is creating this imbalance, in my health and in my lifestyle, then we get to see amazing things happen because you just reverse engineer it and get to see the body get well.
Absolutely. So it's not an outside thing that's going to heal you. It's going to come from the inside. And so today, we haven't done this in a really long time. We are going to talk about the thyroid.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the most commonly asked questions and issues that we see that comes up with the thyroid. And so let me go ahead and tell you, that is one of our specialties in the office. That's what I specialize in. Unfortunately, the reason why I specialize in it is because I lost my thyroid. They cut out my thyroid when I was 19. But what's really crazy is that thyroid issues and thyroid dysfunction was few and far in between, right? It was a type of issue where it was women over 30 or 40, but now women, men, young kids are getting, young women, young men. And the reason why is because the thyroid is so sensitive to, number one, stress, number two, toxicity, number three, lack of nutrients. The thyroid is going to be this organ. So just so you know, it's this butterfly-shaped organ. If you're on Facebook Live, you can see I'm pointing to it. It should be right here, right kind of at the base of your neck-ish, right? And it's a butterfly-shaped organ, and it's responsible for ATP production for all your cells. And what you need to understand about that is that it is absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Adequate levels of thyroid hormones means that all of your cells can create enough energy to function, heal, and thrive. When you don't have, it's like saying you want to go from here, Chattanooga, to Atlanta, and if you're not here locally, guys, it's what, like an hour and a half drive, right? Hour and a half for Dr. Nathan, because he likes to speak, but it's like an hour and 40 to 2 hours, okay? It's like saying you want to go to Atlanta, and you know it takes a whole tank to get there, and you decide to only fill it, 75% of the way, or halfway. You're not going to make it there. And so a lot of you guys are going about your day really struggling, feeling completely off without realizing that it's your thyroid hormone. And man, so when I started coaching, it was few and far between. Now everyone's having a thyroid issue. Thyroid, which is T4 synthetic only medication, it's one of the top drugs. I say one of because it goes between statin medications and Thyroid, levothyroxine. So everyone's getting put on it. And what sucks is this misunderstanding that, let me go ahead and say this. If there's one thing I want you guys to take away with, like we have a whole hour here. If you're listening to this and you're in the car and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to hear this more, make sure to go to Facebook. We're live, or go to our website, drswarren.com, DRSWARREN. We send recaps. We send our recommendations with supplements. We send out discounts for those supplements. So go to drswarren.com and sign up for our newsletter if you want this to be sent to you. But the number one thing I would want everyone to understand about the thyroid dysfunction and getting a thyroid diagnosis is that number one, getting a thyroid diagnosis means absolutely nothing. Okay? Yeah, it means nothing. Yeah. The most common reason that people have thyroid dysfunction, they say it's up to 90% of hypothyroidism, is Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder. So this is what it looks like. And if you're in the car right now, if you're at home, and I say this, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's me, I want you by yourself to raise your hand and say, that is me. Okay? That's what we do at Talks. Raise your hand and say, that's me. What ends up happening is that you feel like you can't lose weight, right? You're tired, you're fatigued, you're feeling maybe a little bit more anxious, like you're more worried about things, or you're feeling down about things, whatever it may be. The top reason you go into your doctor to find out if your thyroid's off is that you're gaining weight or you cannot lose weight and you're feeling tired. You go to your doctor. Your doctor does all the labs, and what do they tell you? Well, look at your TSH, look at your total T4, everything looks fine. But you're like, man, I Googled thyroid symptoms. I don't know why I feel that way. Like, I thought it was this, but your labs came back and said that everything looked fine. Number one problem that happens is that you know something is wrong. It probably is your thyroid, but your doctor is doing the wrong labs, okay? So you just went to your doctor. It's like saying, hey, I think something's wrong with my car, and the doctor's like, well, let me see if you have enough gas. And you're like, wait, no, why are you checking my gas tank? I know the problem's in the engine. Well, I'm going to check your windshield wiper fluid. I'm going to check your timing belt. I don't really know a lot about cars. It's like the mechanic's saying they're going to check everything but what needs to be checked. You would fire that mechanic. So you guys are going into your doctor, getting incomplete labs, and then being told that everything's fine. Yeah. That's the first problem. Okay, let's say you go to the doctor, and let's say they do all the right labs, right? The second thing that's going to happen is, well, everything still looks normal. They do all the right labs, and everything looks fine. We'll keep an eye on it. What a lot of doctors say this, it could be a problem in the future. Yeah. We'll just keep an eye on it. Yeah.
Keep an eye.
What your doctor just told you is that by keeping an eye on it.
Sick. We'll wait till you're like in the hospital. We'll wait till you're, 50 pounds overweight. We'll wait till you're like depressed, and then we put you on a depression medication. Like, we're gonna wait till it's literally burning your house down before we do something. They say the same thing about diabetes.
It is about diabetes. They'll have someone who has like borderline A1C, and they're like, we'll just wait and see.
Not a problem this year. That's what one of the doctors told my patient. Not a problem this year. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what did you miss when you were going through school? Maybe everything, like, to make a statement like that. Like diabetes, and we know the complications of that later on. But
the wait and see approach is just saying we're going to wait till it gets bad enough, then we can throw medication on there. So, okay, so you get these labs and they still tell you that everything looks pretty normal. And the reason why is because, let me give you an example. TSH is a thyroid stimulating hormone. It goes from 0.45 to 4.5 according to some labs. So your TSH is at a 4 or at a 3.5. It's not off the range, but what we do know from number one patient and clinical experience, not just myself, a collective effort of functional practitioners all over the world have seen this. And number two, the most up-to-date research is that having a TSH below a 2.5, actually below a 2, is going to be more optimal. So your doctor's telling you at a 4, let's just wait and see. You can still have hypothyroid symptoms. Okay, that's the second scenario. This third scenario is this. The third scenario is that your doctor says, oh yes, you're hypothyroid. They did the labs, they see it, and they put you on a thyroid medication and send you on your way. You know, the biggest thing is there's this practitioner, nurse practitioner here in Chattanooga that I referred someone to. And I love to hear what she was saying about what she was able to do, okay? She sat there and she was like, I can get someone black and white on labs. I can get them better from one lab to the next. I can do it. Well, yeah, if you prescribe medication, anyone can do that. I mean, my 4-year-old son put someone on thyroid medication, their thyroid levels are going to get better.
Of course.
Anyone can do that when you're prescribing medication. But the problem is this. When 90% of hypothyroid issues are autoimmune disorders, getting on a medication and never getting down to the cause of that autoimmune disorder sets you up for failure for a few different reasons. Number one, it is a heaven sent. It is a heaven sent. When you do not have enough thyroid hormones and you get on a thyroid medication that gives you thyroid hormones. I don't care who you are. If you're running out of gas, it doesn't matter if it's crap gas, your car's going to be happy to have gas to keep on going. You're going to feel great because you've been hypo for so long. But then what happens over time?
Yeah.
An autoimmune issue persists, meaning two different things. Number one, your thyroid keeps on getting destroyed. There's destruction in the thyroid. It keeps on getting attacked. Number two, when you have one autoimmune disorder, you're 3 times as likely to have another. So you have this hyperactive immune modulation issue, and it's not, let me go ahead, if your doctor ever told you like, it's because your body made a mistake and it's attacking itself, it doesn't make a mistake, okay?
Yeah.
It does it for a reason, and we'll explain that, in the next segment. But when you get on that thyroid medication without addressing the underlying issues of what's causing your autoimmune disorder, there's a few things that's going to happen. You're going to develop another autoimmune disorder, whether that's skin issues, whether that's digestive issues, whether MS,
arthritic processes,
celiac, arthritis.
Especially as you get older, that's a big one that we see. You start off with thyroid issues, and then later on, you're ending up with like severe like rheumatoid arthritis, or you're ending up with some other type of arthritic condition that's affecting your joints across the body. Like I don't know how many times I sit in front of patients and they'll tell me like I've got pain in both my elbows, and I'm like, oh, did you injure both your elbows? And you can see the light starting to turn on where they're like, no, wait a second. Why do I have pain literally in both of my elbows if I've never injured either one of them? And they start to see, oh, wait a second, this is a systemic issue, right? Like this is literally across the body. This is because of autoimmune processes going on inside. And I would even say, because I know that there's guys listening to this right now on the radio, and we're about to go on break, and you think, well, I just heard thyroid issues are something my wife goes to the doctor and gets, No. I would say 6 out of 10 at least of the men that I see in my office have some subclinical like thyroid issues going on, because it's such a sensitive organ. It really is. And you've been under stress for the last 30 years, every second of every single day. And not to mention the chemical toxicities and the things that you've also ignored the past 15 years. Like so the thyroid issues go across the board. They're very, very serious. If you don't figure out why, you will always stay sick. You just will. Yeah. And the other thing is, since when did we become a society that is just okay with being dependent completely on a chemical and a substance? Like, when did you become the person that says, it would be a lot harder work to get my mercury filling out and to pay for organic food and probably to go on a few walks throughout the day, maybe do 30 to 90 days of working on my gut. Nope, I would rather rely on a doctor to write a script for me to go to a pharmacy for my insurance that I have to pay every month, like 4 times the amount that I should pay, just to get my pills. Yep, that's what I would rather do.
It's just chaos. And if you're in that kind of cycle, let me go ahead and tell you this. So yeah, once the thyroid gets affected, it's the easy fix is get on a pill. It's not a fix.
It's not a fix.
It's easier, but getting metals taken out of your mouth that are making your thyroid sick are the same things that are going to make your brain sick and hook you up for Alzheimer's and dementia and depression and anxiety. The same thing that's destroying your thyroid is going to cause other issues where it's going to slow you down, and as you age, you're going to have more issues. And before I go on break, I want you to know these are red flags that you do probably have a thyroid issue. Number 1, ever had gallbladder issues, gallbladder attack, or had your gallbladder removed? There's a direct connection with your thyroid hormone in the gallbladder, okay? Number 2, you've had low testosterone, low progesterone, low estrogen, or a hysterectomy, okay? That's a big red flag because it's connected. If you wake up and you're tired, or you wake up, you're fine, and then around 2 to 3 o'clock, you hit this wall and you feel like you need a nap, or it's time to go to sleep, and at night you can fall asleep, but you're waking up multiple times, whether that's to go to pee or you're just waking up through the night, unable to lose weight, gaining weight around the stomach, feeling exhausted and fatigued. All of those are red flags that your thyroid is possibly up. Now, if you're listening to this, if we're going on a break right now and you're like, man, I'd like to get help to go a little deeper, there's 2 different things you can do. Number 1, you can give the team a call, and you can set up a consult with myself or Dr. Nathan to actually get down to the cause of your thyroid issues, or to get that thyroid issue diagnosed appropriately. We look at all old labs. If you need to order labs, we discuss that. The whole entire consult is with us. It's actually going to be very different. We don't treat symptoms, but if you want that help, you can give us a call. That number is 423-362-5360. Again, that's 423-362-5360. Number 2, you can go to our website. There's a few things you can do on our website. It's very pretty. You can see our wonderful family on there. You can, number 1, check out what it looks like to make an appointment, what the consultation looks like, and you can request to speak with our clinic director, have her call you so she can discuss with you with what's going on before you make your appointment. Or number, 3, I think I said 2. Number 3.
4 or 5. Sorry.
Yeah, number 3, sign up for our newsletter. We send out an update of all the notes that we talk about during the radio show, discounts for the supplements we talk about. We go over the supplements and the dosages. So go to drswarren.com, DRSWARREN, and we'll see you right after the break.
All right, guys. Yeah, we were just looking. We're like, man, we went like 6 minutes over when we should have taken a break because we just get going. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so thyroid issues, man. I think it's pretty wild. I think you can even see that when it comes to a thyroid problem, like most people don't, they don't first say, okay, what is creating this issue? Has there been a problem there for a long period of time? First thing that they say is, like, I just want to feel better. And I get that. Like, that actually makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Like, when I sit down in front of a 45-year-old woman who, literally can't lose weight, she doesn't feel like herself, she has no sexual drive, she has, no motivation, she's got 3 kids and she's pulling her hair out. Oh, by the way, her hair is already starting to fall out. Mm-hmm. Like, and you see those things, like, I get it. That makes sense. Like, I know that you want to feel better. And in those cases, we'll sometimes use certain things that can help, like, initially give, thyroid hormone, to the body. And, most of the time, I would even say their doctors, even if they don't find a thyroid issue, are more than welcome to give out, levothyroxine or Synthroid like it's, candy. So
the problem, too, is it's not just medical practitioners that are doing it. You go to a functional medicine doctor that can prescribe medication. They're putting you on MP thyroid. Oh, you have a thyroid issue.
It's not Synthroid,
this
but
level
it's
is not optimal. I mean, that local health nurse practitioner did the same thing. She was like, so here's someone that we've been working on for a really, really long time, and her goal is to come off the thyroid support, like glandulars or thyroid medication. And we're working with her. We took her off. We try to see her body response. She's not optimal, but the fact that she's even producing the amount of hormones she's producing is amazing. And here's this nurse practitioner looking at her levels saying, oh, this isn't enough. Get on medication. without fully realizing that this is her after being on thyroid medication
for years. Yeah.
Which, just so you know, studies are like, doctors say you can't come off of thyroid medication. Yeah. So for this woman to come off of it and still produce above a 3 thyroid hormone is amazing. And we're working with her to get up higher. But what was the answer? The nurse practitioner looked at her thyroid hormones, and her answer was what? Gave her a medication. Take it home, start taking it.
But it's okay because it's naturally desiccated, right? Like
it's like from a pig, and anyway.
It's okay. Yeah.
So that just blows my mind, because what sucks is that depending on where you're at with what's going on with your thyroid, there's a lot you can do, especially at the beginning, to fix it, to heal it, to make proper hormones. But if you go to a doctor or even a functional practitioner that's putting you on thyroid medication, I don't even care if it's, desiccated, it's going to make you dependent on it.
All right, guys, welcome back to Wellness Radio. I am your health expert, Dr. Nathan Warren. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Dr. Rebecca Warren. We're talking all about the thyroid for both men and women, because you all have a thyroid, despite this stigma that it's only women that get thyroid issues. I don't know where that came from, by the way.
Well, it was that.
It's just more...
It was that only women got it. We were just more hypersensitive. Our sex hormones affect it. Our hormones are more sensitive. But the environment's becoming more toxic.
Yeah.
We're more stressed out. And so the same things that used to only affect women now affect everyone.
Everybody, yeah.
Because it's getting out of control.
Yeah.
So... the same things for men. Like how many men are you coaching right now that thyroid has to be...
Yeah. Well, it
testosterone
has to be addressed.
issues and thyroid issues.
Big time. Yeah.
And again, I've said this a million times. We don't prescribe medication. But I'll tell you what, listen, there's a time and a place for it, which is why, I refer out, talk to this person about your medication. But I had this conversation. Do you know how easy it would be for you to come in to see us and you have a thyroid issue, and I said, I've seen it all the time. Oh, this doctor is amazing. They diagnosed my thyroid issue. All they did was 2 different things. Number 1, they did the right labs, which, heck, you can go online and do the labs by yourself. Yeah. You can address, number 1, they just did the right labs. Number 2, they put you on the right medication.
Yeah.
I mean, and people just are like, my life was completely changed, which it does help.
Yeah.
But holy moly, I could just put you on a medication and you'll feel better. But that's the problem that I'm seeing, is that you get on a medication and you address this end problem, which is the hormones. But there's a problem at the top, and it's an autoimmune issue. 90% of you guys have an autoimmune issue where your thyroid's being destroyed. And by getting on that medication, what ends up happening? Why do I see women that have been on medication for 20 years feel like complete junk? Because the thyroid keeps on getting destroyed. So over time, you need more and more and more and more medication. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you have this issue over here. And now you're dependent on this medication. Yeah. So you have to address the autoimmune part of it. You have to address that.
And I'll even give you, I'll give you an example from my perspective. So I don't know if you remember so Kevin came in. He had seen a practitioner, a doctor, medical doctor, who, referred to herself as a holistic
she was like a
medical doctor.
Functional
holistic medical doctor.
Yeah.
And so looked at his labs, saw his his thyroid numbers, by the way, on his original blood work were normal. They were within normal ranges. And then you looked at his testosterone. His testosterone is a little low. So she puts him, because she says, I'm going to give you an anti-aging strategy, which I see a lot. She put him on thyroid medication. She put him on testosterone injections, estrogen blockers, and a couple other things that I can't remember right off the top of my head. But those are the main things, right? Thyroid medication, testosterone injections, and estrogen blockers. And, I remember when he came in and set in with me, he's like, yeah, I went to see her because I just wanted to make sure that I'm healthy and well, and just I didn't have any pain or problems or anything like that. And now I'm on 3 different medication. I went in, and this was for a couple years that he was on these medications, and so I had to look at his past lab work. I'm like, holy crap, these are normal. What in the world? Your testosterone was lower, but I had to explain, why was your testosterone lower, right? sometimes it can be because, your body's not, maybe there's an issue and the body's not producing enough testosterone, but that's not always the problem, right? Like I have men that are in their 50s and their testosterone, you look at their number, it's like, maybe 300, 350, and they're like, but yet they're now building muscle and they're feeling amazing. And people are like, well, that doesn't make sense because all the studies just talk about the number, the total number, but they're missing a major part of hormone health, which is the sensitivity of hormones, which is how the hormones bind to the cell and actually get in and become active. They're missing a whole part.
Yes, because I'm so glad you said this, because I've been so frustrated with this, right? So for the longest time, all we had about thyroid health was what medicine said. And what they said is the range can go from 0.4 to 4.5. Like it can, whatever. And then came a time where there were so many people that were suffering with thyroid issues, being on thyroid medication, that a lot of functional practitioners were like looking at studies, they were listening to their patients, and they're like, wait a minute, TSH should be below a 2 or 2.5. Free T3 should be a 3.7 or above, right? Like this is what it should be. And saying that started to help a lot of people. But now, even in alternative health, they're fixated on this number of being a 3.7 or above. I got someone to a 3.7 and she had hyper issues, anxiety, panic attack, like
she felt
everything.
Like crap.
She felt like crap. She came down to a 3.3 and started losing weight and energy. No one is the same. No one is the same. Our biochemistries are different, but hormone sensitivity, cell receptor sensitivity comes into play. And that's why when you have a thyroid issue, Kevin, when there is a hormone issue, you just don't focus on the hormones.
Right.
You focus on why isn't it getting produced? But we focus on cell health.
Yes.
The health of the cell that's binding
what changes
with.
the game. And long term, that's what changes the game. You go from doing the shotgun effect to actually doing, to actually solving the problem, right? Like, I mean, alternative health practitioners for a while, they would rip on medical doctors for that thyroid dilemma there. And then they did the exact same thing with testosterone. Because let's be honest, that's more from the alternative health world than it is from, our medical world. These testosterone injections, low T center, they kind of hide under this umbrella of being like these anti-aging, whatever. But when you look at that, you're missing a whole boat, which is the sensitivity of the hormones. It's the cell membrane, it's the cell health. And if you do not address that, you do not get a person well. I mean, doesn't it just make sense? I remember when one of our mentor, when he talked about how if you get the cell well, the person gets well, and you're like, oh yeah, because we're literally made of cells. If you are getting your cellular health well, of course you're going to be well, and it's going to take time. But as you do that, you become a completely different person, or let's put it a different way, you become you, who you're supposed to be. And it started to make more sense. And then you start to realize, really nowhere in health do they talk about getting the cell well. Even in nutrition, right? They don't talk about how to get the cell well, right? People have dogmas, rather than science, but they don't talk about actually how to get the physiology, to get that cell physiology working appropriately.
Absolutely. So if you're just tuning in, we're about to go on break. We are Doctors Warren. A few different places you can find us is Facebook. We are live right now at Doctors Warren. So if you're watching this, make sure to like and follow. You can find us on there. You can find us at doctorswarren.com, DRSWARREN. We do have a clinic in Hamilton Place. We do virtual health coaching all over the U.S. So if you're listening to this and you're ready, whether this is for you, your husband, your wife, your kids, whatever it may be, if you're ready to reach your health goal, if you're ready to actually get down to the cause of what's going on with your hormones and actually get well, you can give us a call and set up a consult with us. That number is 423-362-5360. Again, that's 423-362-5360. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the strategies we use to help people heal from thyroid disorders.
Yeah.
Like Christy, who had at one point, right before coming into our office, antibody levels, TPO antibodies of 2,700, and how low did she get it?
To 1.
To 1. antibody. One. And
That
just so
was
you know, you
in-
should keep it below
what was
34.
that, 7 months, 8 months?
Actually, if you go to doctorswarren.com, we have testimonials or stories. You'll see Christy's video on there. But we'll discuss how did she get it down that low? Because if she was going to continue that way,
How much
her
weight did
thyroid-
she lose?
A lot. Where she needed surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she actually, did get.
she lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
The weight comes when the body heals. The weight loss is a side effect of a healthy body.
Yep.
You don't chase weight loss when it comes to thyroid issues. So, guys, if you want the consult time, 423-362-5360. This is the Wellness Radio. We'll see you right after the break.
All right. So looking at I kind of I went off a little bit because I really do I think that the sensitivity part of it and the cell part of it, to me, it makes the most sense, right?
It's huge. It makes sense
Yeah.
why I get frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also too, it starts to make sense that this is why when you're seeing somebody, they actually have to be knowledgeable about the entire body, and they have to be looking into function. They can't just be like, well, I know that these numbers are optimal every single time, because that's not always the case. Like you gave an example of that. You have to be able to listen to the patient as well. I used to tell, in my x-ray reports or my doctor's reports or even in talks, I used to say things like, health has nothing to do with how you feel or how you look. But I would kind of step back just a tiny bit from that statement, because when it comes to hormone health and thyroid health, it does kind of matter how you feel and how you look.
Yeah.
So it is a
Yes.
good indicator, because again, if you don't feel like yourself, who's gonna know better than you how you're supposed to feel? Right? Unless you just never felt like yourself, since you were a kid, which probably does happen, unfortunately. But it does have an indicator, or it is an indicator, and it does have a time and a place to look at how do you feel? How are your energy levels? Are you losing weight to where you want to be? I do think that matters. So you also have to actually listen to the patient. That's actually a crazy thought, that you would actually have to make eye contact with the patient, listen to their story, not just the little snippets and details. When I sit down and do an initial consult with my patient, I remember in school they used to say, be careful, don't ask an open-ended question, or even a lot of practice management companies, be very direct with what the first thing that you say, because you don't want to sit there for an hour and listen. I do that on purpose, because if you don't hear a person's story, you know how many holes that you miss? I'm talking they'll write their stuff on an exam sheet or on their new patient paperwork, but then you let them actually tell their story, and there is 15 different things. They're like, wait a second, you lived in a home with mold for 7 years and it was literally eating through your drywall? Oh my gosh, that's not on your paperwork. That's actually something that I need to make sure to write down. Or after I lost my mom, I was just a little bit depressed. What do you say? How depressed were you? Well, I've been on a medication for 10 years. Oh, you didn't write that on your sheet. You didn't get that unless you actually listen to the patient. And that's important, right? In all areas of life. So again, whoever you guys see, they need to listen to you, right? If you live in, if you live in Charlotte, or if you live in Nashville, if you live in Atlanta, if you're listening wherever you're at, whoever you see, they should make eye contact with you and listen to you.
Talk, yeah. So Dr. Brownstein, who specializes in iodine, selenium, and thyroid health, medical doctor, he said something. He's like, "Oop, we're about to go back from the radio."
All right, guys, welcome back to the Wellness Radio.
Welcome back, guys.
Go ahead. Yeah, you sound like you took over there.
I did that. I wanted to mess with you, then I realized we're on radio live. Sorry about that.
Oh man.
I wanted to see what you were gonna do, but I'm like, oh yeah, we're on live radio.
I was just gonna let you go.
I was
It
trying to see what you.
Sounded like you were really confident in what you were doing, so I was just
I
gonna
was
let
just
you roll with
copying
that.
you.
Oh. Well, welcome back, guys. We're talking about the thyroid. The thyroid is how can we say it? one of the most important organs in your body. They're all important. But again, we're talking about for cellular energy, for you to literally produce ATP, at an adequate level, for you to have the energy that you need at a cellular level. I mean, it's literally the thyroid. The thyroid is absolutely that important. And yet we still have a mindset in our medical system that, well, if you get a nodule in there, we can just cut it out, and then give you thyroid hormone. And so this is an area that unfortunately, even though you've been talking about it now for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, that it's still not being addressed. It's go figure, but then again, I guess that's in a lot of areas. Like we talk about cancer and it's still not being addressed normal. Like we talk about heart disease, it's still not being addressed normal. But the thyroid is an important one because so many people that we see that come into our clinic have underlying thyroid issues. So many. So, anyway, where do you want to go with that? I know you had mentioned that you wanted to go into some solutions. So.
But during the commercial break, you talked about something I'd like for you to touch on live is about a doctor listening to you.
My whole statement behind that is that if your doctor is not actually looking you in the eyes, finding out your story, finding out what got you to this point, then what are you doing there? What is their purpose? If they're not listening to you, that means they've already made up in their mind what they're going to do. It means that they're going to follow their little textbook and just write down on their prescription pad because this number doesn't exactly match with this number, rather than actually digging into your story. Your story is unique. Right? What got you to your thyroid issue is different than everybody else in the entire world. I don't care, I don't care if you're twins and you have thyroid issues. It's still a different story because you're your own unique individual. Your microbiome is different. Literally your genetic, your genetics are different. The way that those are expressed are different. The environments that you've been in and that you've been exposed to are different. So you've got to hear the story. That is going to be the first step in getting you well, is hearing your story.
Yeah, and so what I was going to bring up is Dr. Brownstein is a medical doctor that's kind of considered an expert in helping people heal from thyroid disorders, using iodine and selenium. And I heard him speak and he was like, there's ways for you to test to see if your thyroid is starting to cause issues and that's taking your temperature in the morning before getting out of bed. But he said, and it really made me oh my gosh, yeah. He was like, this is how medical doctors used to diagnose it. A lot of times we live and die by what's on a piece of paper, what's on our labs. When someone's sitting in front of us telling us all the things that are proving that they have an issue, right? And he was like, medical doctors used to sit there and listen and then check things off and check their temperature and check their blood pressure to diagnose this issue. And that's the problem, is that they live and die by what's on a paper, and what's happening in front of them doesn't happen. And he's like, that's just what I do.
The art of diagnosing. It's an art.
Yeah.
It literally is an art. And it actually used to be something that our medical system, our medical doctors were actually really, really good at. I used to say that, if there's one area that they're great at, it's the diagnosing area. I would actually take that completely back now because, even though technology is such an amazing thing, now they rely so much on technology, that they don't listen and they don't actually diagnose based on their clinical expertise and what they've heard and their experiences. Literally they just say, CT scan, this is what it shows, this is what the problem is, rather than saying, oh, wait a second, yeah, I see that there's a problem there, but there could be something that's creating that issue. Or blood work, there you go, here's the numbers, yeah, thyroid issue, no doubt about it. We got to give her a Synthroid, rather than saying, hey, you know what? Actually, I bet because she told me that she has diarrhea and constipation going back and forth, that she's probably got some gut issues too, so we need to address that, and maybe that's going to have an effect on the thyroid.
Yeah, okay, and I'm glad you said that too, because Synthroid is the #1 prescribed medication, right? Levothyroxine. And the problem with that is that it's a T4 only medication. You have to convert it. You have to turn it into its bioactive form, which is free T3. So when a doctor puts someone on T4, the idea is that your body's going to take it to the liver, your digestive tract, and your kidneys, and it's going to convert it to its active form, and now you're going to have enough hormones. But the crazy thing is that all your doctors will test is TSH and only free T4. They don't check the free T3 to make sure you're converting it right. But exactly that, I'll have conversations with people. They'll come in and I'll look at their labs and I see they're not converting it. They have good amounts of T4 from their medication, but they don't have enough of the free T3. And I'll ask them and I'll explain this to them and I'll ask them, I'm like, so how well is your digestive system? They'll say, I'll go every couple of days, or I need help, taking something to help me go, or I have acid reflux, or most of the time, 9 times out of 10, their digestive system isn't that great. And then I'll ask them, well, how well do you think your liver is? Well, I've taken a lot of medications through the years. I don't think it's very well.
Triglycerides are skyrocketing. You got a horrible cholesterol to
blood
HDL,
sugar.
Ratio. Oh yeah, and so you see the signs.
Yeah, and so I asked them, now that you know that T4 has to be converted in your liver and your digestive system, how well do you think you might convert it with all the issues you have going on? And they're like, not well at all, and they get it. And so you're exactly right. Like, you could be on T4 only medication and still feel like crap, because the bigger picture is that your thyroid doesn't work by itself. It's affected by all these different systems.
Right.
So if you're listening to this, guys, and you want some help, again, I've said this a few times, we're located in Hamilton Place. We have a clinic there, and we do virtual health coaching all over the U.S. You can find out more about us at drswarren.com, DRSWARREN.com. You can schedule your consult there or give us a call. Someone's standing by to answer your questions. That number is 423-362-5360. Again, that's 423-362-5360. Now let's talk about some of the causes for thyroid disorders. Number one, we say it's autoimmune. So what causes, like in Hashimoto's, autoimmune reaction? Underlying infections.
Yeah, underlying infections that's a big one, right? Because like even one that flies under the radar, like blastocystis homini, right? I read another study on a parasite that wreaks havoc and can create Hashimoto's literally on its own, right? In the body. So underlying infection's huge. Epstein-Barr virus. Cytomegalovirus, those type of things that are going unchecked. Yeah, H. pylori
is a bugger. It's a bacteria in the gut. So a lot of those infections you're talking about reside in the gut. Mm-hmm. Like, you just did a video about how kids' gut microbiome was. They did a study on how disinfectant, the crap that they're spraying everywhere right now, how it changed their microbiome, their bacteria balance, and the fungal balance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So our guts are being bombarded. So number one, the gut issue is going to be a really, really, really big one. Number two, I will say it's hormone receptor sensitivity issues. So whether that's in the thyroid or whether it's in your peripheral cells, that your cells are just not well enough to bind up and to do well.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, I was going to add in, like, a problem can be for a lot of people is iodine and selenium deficiency. Iodine, and listen, we can do a whole nother show just on iodine and why it's actually helpful, and it's not going to make your iodine worse if you supplement appropriately along with selenium. Mm-hmm. We're deficient in minerals because our soil is deficient of minerals. We're deficient in iodine. Do you want to know how important iodine is? The T4 and T3 molecules, the 4 is 4 iodine molecules, the 3 is 3 iodine molecules. It's kind of important. So, and that's the thing.
What do you mean that my iodized salt that comes on my McDonald's French fries isn't good enough?
Or the iodized salt you buy, what is it, the little girl with the umbrella or whatever? Like, no, that's just not enough.
It's enough maybe to keep you alive. It's like the recommendations for vitamin D. It's like, maybe enough to keep you from getting rickets, but that's not that's not the only thing you're trying to accomplish with that, just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so when we come back, we'll wrap up about some of the things that you can start doing today. Hint, hint, first thing will be changing out your water. But as we're going break, if you'd like to set up a consult with one of us, we're located in Hamilton Place, or do virtual health coaching, you can give us a call at 423-362-5360, or find us on our website, drswarren.com. Mm-hmm. We'll see you right after the break.
All right, guys, so we were talking about causes. We talked about, what did we say? You said you were talking about sensitivity issues, which again, there's several things that can create sensitivity issues too. Like you could even go lower. So we said underlying infection. I would throw in there things like toxic mold is a big issue with thyroid. Well, toxic mold is just a big issue with everything in the body, but that can be an issue, especially when I don't know if you guys know this. Did you know that over 50% of our children's school buildings in the United States have a toxic mold issue that's not being addressed? That is according to the EPA. Over 50%, which we know that toxic mold affects IQ. It literally affects the brain. And we're sending our kids to school
and
like,
then
look, do you see that dark stuff on the wall? Not a big deal.
But
it's
then
okay.
add in the old pipes.
Oh yeah.
And then there's metals in the pipes, lead possibly. Like,
oh yeah. Yep.
That's
And
so
heavy
crazy.
metals is another thing, right? I was going to mention that. So we got underlying infection, mold. You got heavy metals that, and I don't think a lot of people connect the dots that heavy metals are not just the metals you are exposed to in your life. Like heavy metals are also passed down generationally. So we know that things like lead and mercury, they've been shown to be passed down for up to 4 generations, right? 4 generations. That means if your children never, ever are exposed to lead or mercury, they were exposed through you were exposed through your mother, who was also exposed to her mother. And so, some of those, generations lived through the lead generation. They lived through, dentists putting mercury in the mouth like it's no big deal, like crazy. So, our children are littered with heavy metals. And so their sensitivity to other chemicals are their threshold is so much less, right? Some other issues, the underlying issues that we see sometimes with thyroid issues. I'll tell you one that also is not addressed a whole lot, is just the nervous system. Right? The nervous system in general. We've had patients in our office who literally their thyroid issues got better just by working on the cervical spine, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Michael said, "Y'all are awesome. You should set up shop in Cleveland."
Oh yeah. Michael, maybe you can open it up for us, and we'll stop by.
Find us some land. If you can find us some land,
that's a good idea.
We'll consider it.
Yeah.
But Cleveland.
Maybe. There's some beautiful areas out there for sure.
That's closer to downtown, right?
No.
Okay, never mind. I don't know. Find us some land. We'll think about it.
We've lived in Chattanooga now for how many years, and she still can't make her way around.
I still use a GPS.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway.
But yeah, that's absolutely right, and it's kind of a layered thing. And so we've talked about creating a course that people can do on their own about healing their thyroid, and it hit me. I was like, there's a lot of courses you can buy, like, do all these different things, 4 different steps. Ours would be like 15 different segments because there's so much to address. It would have to be.
Yeah. It would absolutely have to be. And two, just knowing though, it's just going to take time. Has to take time. There's no other way around it. It's got to take time, and that's okay.
Take time to get there.
All right, guys, welcome back to Wellness Radio. I'm your health expert, Dr. Nathan Warren, talking with Dr. Rebecca Warren here, and we were talking all about the thyroid. So let's jump in because we only got a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that we hit this. So just as a very, very quick summary here, thyroid issues affect the majority of people in our country, like regardless of what their blood work says, and most doctors are not running the right type of blood work. They're only checking TSH and maybe one other marker there. They're not looking for root cause. They're just prescribing a medication. And then they're missing the underlying root causes there, which are things like hidden infections, right? They're things like heavy metals. They're things like mold. They're things like damage to the nervous system. Why? Because sometimes you got to go upstream. Remember, what controls the thyroid? Hypothalamus, pituitary, right? That connection there. Sometimes it's stress. Like emotional stress can wreak havoc on the thyroid if it's happening all the time over time. So those are some of the underlying issues that need to be addressed, kind of right off the bat. So let's go into some of the things that from a lifestyle standpoint would be good to, whether it's optimize thyroid function or to start somebody on the journey of, really working on the root cause of their thyroid problems?
Yeah, so number one is going to be filtering your water. Number one, not plastic water bottles, because that leaches chemicals that act like they are endocrine disruptors.
Yeah.
Plastic water bottles, plastic anything, out the door.
Get it out.
Glass, stainless steel, you have so many options right now. But endocrine disruptors are exactly that. The thyroid is part of the endocrine system, along with testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, all of that, okay? So when I say good, clean water, I'm not talking about bottled water. You got to have a good filtration. You can touch base on that. But the reason why you want clean water is because fluoride and chlorine in your water, and isn't it Cleveland that got rid of it? I think it was that.
Or Hickson.
It's
Saudi
Cleveland.
Daisy.
Saudi
Daisy, I think.
know.
Yeah, and near
But I
the
think
Chattanooga area got rid
our
of it.
city
My
has
parents, where they live, they got rid of it as well.
So it's worth checking, but regardless, fluoride and chlorine in the water competes with iodine for thyroid receptors, and it destroys your thyroid, and it can decrease your thyroid's ability to produce thyroid hormone. So what are some options for clean water?
Yeah, and I was going to say too, clean water sounds like such a simple thing. Guys, we literally, not going to call them out. We have family members who know a lot about health who still haven't even changed their source of water, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that is, water is something that just getting a Brita filter is not enough.
Yeah.
It is not enough.
Not anymore. No.
Your refrigerator filter, it's not enough. Like, you've got to get good, clean source of water. So whether that's through a Berkey system, whether that's through an RO system, like a whole house or under the sink, whether that's going to be your primary sources there.
Reverse
of good,
osmosis
clean water.
is RO.
Yeah. I mean, it's the easiest one. Does that mean RO water is completely perfect? No, it doesn't mean that either, but it's heck of a lot better than the majority of stuff that's out there. So that's going to be your good sources of water. Clean it up, right? That's number one.
Number two, what I highly recommend is getting on some minerals.
Yep.
Get your minerals. That's not just going to help your thyroid. It's going to help your ovarian health, your uterine health, your breast health, your testicular health, your prostate health.
Yeah.
I mean, every time we read about research about what's going to help bring prostate numbers down, guess what's in there? Minerals, things like zinc and stuff like that. Getting some magnesium in. So getting your minerals into your body is going to be huge.
Yeah, and like specifically, if you don't have a thyroid issue, like a good numbers to kind of shoot for on a daily basis is like 200 micrograms of selenium, and it was 150 to 200 micrograms of iodine. Is that where we're looking?
I would say unless you're working with a practitioner, don't do high dose iodine. Do it from stuff like a kelp source.
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah, because most minerals.
It's going to be very smaller amounts, so it's good support. But for a healing amount, you want to get with a practitioner.
Yeah, because that's specific, right?
Yeah, it can cause some crazy things because it helps detox your body. So I would say get on some iodine from a food source.
Yeah,
those are the two biggest areas three because the plastic that I recommend.
Well, and then I think you've got to throw in the metabolic issues. Like you've got to address, you've got to make sure that your blood sugar insulin response is where it needs to be. So again, and that doesn't even, for a lot of people, just eating real food, is a big deal.
Absolutely, guys. So we have to wrap up here. We are Drs. Warren. Give us a call if you'd like a consult. That number is 423-362-5360. And go to drswarren.com, DRSWARREN.com to find out more about us and to schedule your consult. You guys have a great Saturday.
All right.
Oh, I like radio.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there any other ones that you want to give some? So because I will say, I think that there's some stuff that I think can work really well too. I've always been a fan. Like if you know that you've been having some thyroid issues, but maybe you're not like on thyroid medication yet. I've always been a fan of utilizing like the whole mindset of like what our ancestors would have done, is, like strengthens like. So, utilizing like there's a difference between a desiccated thyroid hormone, like even like Thyrogold, Thyrobands, those type of things, and like a full actual freeze dried like organ that like you would like our ancestors would consume. So there's a difference there, by the way. And so like ancestral supplements, like I like those. Those are, if you go on our website, DoctorsWarren.com, you go to the shop, you can actually look at those products there. And they're literally coming from like completely pasture-raised animals, and it's like
So
going
it's
back.
organ meat.
It's organ meat. It's
But
the
in
it's our
capsules.
modern way of doing it, right?
It's like a
unless you want to go
multivitamin.
out and eat, you know, an actual thyroid gland. Like, I don't know about you, but I didn't grow up eating
Can
thyroid
people eat
gland or
that?
liver. Yeah, for sure. They used to do it all the time, but like strengthens like. And also too, this is more of a theory that hasn't completely been shown in research, but again, it actually makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of really brilliant doctors who believe this is the case, and we've even seen it in the office, is that whenever you're consuming, let's say, like the thyroid organ, like you're consuming that, if you have autoimmune conditions, your body will actually attack it and leave your own, gland unharmed, which means that you are now stopping the damage to your own body, right? You just give it while you're getting to the underlying cause, right?
Yeah.
Because you still have to do that,
It's a good
but at
support.
least, it at least kind of slows,
I've seen that
slows that
happen
down.
too.
Yeah, I think that well, and that's kind of what happened with, we talked about like the woman at the beginning who is now like coming off of her medication, went to the nurse practitioner, and actually still doing pretty well. It's the same thing I did with Kevin. Like, so you can see some good results with that, utilizing a kind of a whole organ, based thing. Or you can be, maybe you can kill a deer and eat its thyroid.
Yeah, you like the
That's
idea
brave.
of that stuff.
I would never do it, but like, I'm like, huh? I guess that's what our ancestors did, which is kind of a cool thing. What about like taurine and some of those things? I've always heard that those are, those are always some pretty specific things that seem to help with thyroid issues.
Yeah, anything. Well, I mean, the beginning is you've got to make sure and we'll wrap it up with this. Like, this is how the steps would go. Number one, if you have a thyroid issue, we would support to get you out of the hole. So we need to get your hormones up, right? So we'll get your hormones up to an adequate level using glandulars or using like kind of what you said about the organ, right? Then the next thing we'll do is we'll support with all the nutrients you need to be well. Vitamin D, we'll check that. Vitamin B, minerals, iodine. We'll give you all the right nutrients to kind of support that thyroid. Those two things get you out of the hole to then get down to the cause.
Yeah.
Because
which is different for everybody.
Yeah, which is different for everyone, which sucks because a lot of people are trying to jump into the cause while still feeling like junk, and you try to lose weight, try to exercise when you don't have enough thyroid hormone, and it's just complete crap. So then you can get down to the cause, which is what you did with coaching client. Once you worked on this cause, then we can come back over here and, hey, let's see if we can wean you off of this stuff, and let's see how your thyroid responds.
Yeah,
and it takes time.
It takes time. That's always the conversation
5 years.
I go ahead and have with my patients is that and clients is that, listen, you also gotta you gotta give yourself some grace. You gotta be patient. Like, taking care of those underlying causes that we just talked about, like, they have to take time. There's no 30-day cleanse for blastocystis homini, or at least that I've seen. Like, it's just that, and it probably, if there is, it would kill you.
Can take forever.
Yeah.
Some people it can take 90 days. Other people it can take a year or two. Like,
heavy metal detox, like when
years.
And we've seen people with 3, 4, 5 times the amount that would be normal inside the body. It takes years. So guess what? You strap in and you say, hey, listen, it took me time to get to the point where I have these problems. It's going to take time to get myself out of it. And as you come to that conclusion there, what's really good is you start to say, okay, well, I'm making this a lifestyle. And then real change can happen. When you start stepping your mindset into, okay, this is going to take time, and this is just something that I'm going to turn into my way of life, things start to change, because then it's not about being perfect,
life,
right?
yeah.
It's not about hitting a 30 days where you've got to be exactly perfect. It's like, no. Like, this is going to take, months or years. So, you know what? I know that if I'm following the directions, I'm going through, these lifestyle changes, and I'm being, specific about it. But it just takes the weight off of the shoulders when you just go ahead and accept it took you years to get there. It's going to take you time to get out of it.
No, I agree with that. I think that's the biggest frustration that people hit is like, well, I should be well in 6 months. 6 months? This took like 20 years to develop.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself time. And you got to chip away. And a lot of times people go from 0 to 100 within 30 days to 6 months. And then 5 years from now, they're still not practicing the same things that help them get well.
Yeah.
So it is all about time.
Yeah,
So,
there's no doubt. Yeah, you gotta, and that's with anything, right? Pain, low back pain, neck
anything
pain,
worth
all
having
those
is
things,
worth
yeah.
committing to
Yeah,
over time.
it's a really good
And
point.
success never is an end destination. Success is a journey.
I like that, man. Wow, can you counsel me or something? That was pretty good.
Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful Saturday. If you have any questions, make sure to message us or leave a comment here. Make sure to like and follow.
See you guys.